everyone, it's Paola. Welcome back to my channel, Art Graphic Design. That's what I do here. You guys know what's up. I tell you every time. Before we get into it, please follow me on Instagram. Like I say, that's where I post more of my designs and definitely have been posting more, and that's where I update you on what's going on. Also be sure to check out my Patreon, how you can donate to my channel, all in the links below. So friends, let's talk color. So I was thinking about what designers need to know about color. You know, we're not like artists, at least some of us don't define ourselves that way, and design is not really art in the sense that it is more of problem solving and figuring out like concepts and reasoning, and it's not always just like art, illustration, that type of stuff. So some designers might get a little confused when it comes to like choices in color, choices in design elements, and like color is such a broad topic, so I just figured let's talk about like colors and color palettes. So a very long time ago, I don't remember when this video was posted, I'll have it linked below, it's kind of old, but basically I talked about color theory. And I think that's really helpful for a lot of designers to know, like color theory is such a big aspect of design just because you need to know a lot about color in order to use it correctly. And I'm not saying there's like right and wrong ways to do things, but there's kind of rules and ways that you need to understand things in order to be a professional at them. So the video I posted, I went into like the color wheel. So you can watch that video, but basically if you haven't seen a color wheel has all of the colors, and it has primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors. And within the color wheel, you can see where your primary colors are going to have their complementary colors. A complementary color is the color that's across from it on the color wheel. So the two that are across from each other are complementary colors. So like I said, I explained that in like my old video, but yeah, that's kind of like a refresher for how color works and how you can start exploring it. So let's talk about color palettes, building color palettes, creating them. How do we get into that? How do we start? Making color palettes is really important, especially in like branding design where you are choosing colors for a brand. You know, not every client is going to come to you with all of their color choices in mind, every single thing that they have laid out for you. Sometimes they really want to work with you in order to discover what their brand vision is. And like, yeah, they can have one favorite color, but how do you build off a whole palette off of one color and one choice and create a whole brand? And it's not all about branding. It's just all about using color choices in your design work. You know, if you're creating a poster, if you're creating any visual aspect, if you're creating business cards, if you're creating flyers, there's so much to design. Obviously, we know that, and I've talked about that on my channel, handmade design, digital design, but how do we pick colors and pick colors that go well together and make these smart design choices that will translate to an audience? So something I want you to think about when creating colors, if you are working with a client or you're creating something and you want to build a color palette that's strong, I think the first thing you need to think about is tone. So some of this might sound a little self-explanatory, but some people really might not know what this means. Finding tones is basically like finding different shades of a color. And I think when you want to work in a color, you shouldn't work in the brightest primary version of that hue. I think you should try to fade out from that strongest color. Like say if you're working with red, don't go for a true red, or at least make that one aspect and then start working in different tones around that red. When you work with tones, you can find a lot of aspects and depth to color that can create something really beautiful. You know, you don't have to go crazy with a crazy amount of colors in order to make something beautiful and work for your design. If you're really wanting to stay in one color family, play with those tones, play with those shades, and find something like really deep and really light, and that can really add up a dynamic aspect to your design. You know, it can even work in the shadow, it can work in the light part of it, it can work in type. I just think there's so many aspects to that, and working with shades is a great way to start working in color palettes. And that's a great way to build your own because you don't have to rely on like, oh, what do I need in order to create something great? Like you can just start from a color and start building off of there, and then you have like a whole color palette all of a sudden because you have like 5 shades of red. And you don't have to rely on anything. You can find those within your own design program you're using. You can just follow that curve in like the color choice and just start figuring out what shades of one color go together. And from there, working with tones, you can start adding in other colors, like try adding in a complementary color to one of the shades you've chosen, and then start seeing where that builds off of. You know what I mean? I feel like working with clients especially, like I get really intimidated by color choices because I'm kind of creating a palette a lot of the times for them. And for that, I get intimidated because I'm like, I can't trust my own skills in choosing all these colors. Like, what if something clashes? And I think this is just a great way to get that started so you can at least start working in it, and then you won't feel as intimidated to build your own in the future. But if you don't want to build your own, you technically can use like programs. So I'm going to show you some websites that I think are good. None of this is sponsored. I just want to talk about it to hopefully help you figure out how you can build color palettes to the best of your abilities. So one site that I think is really good to find like actual color palettes is colorhunt.co. They're already made, like they're all there, and they show you the hex code and all of that, so you can like use that in your own design work, in your own programs, and it's just a great way to like start finding color choices and colors that go together, and if you want to start building your own from there, you can. But it's cool because it has lots of themes, so I just find it interesting because you can find like kind of like the vibe you're going for, if that makes sense, for your design. But as you can see within those like color palettes, there already are like a lot of tonal colors in there, and I just think that shows how important that is in starting to create your palettes, like actually starting with a base of like maybe 2 different tones and then adding in some options that go with it. The other site I wanted to show you is Adobe Color. I use this one all the time for my client work. I use it in kind of like a way where you just like click on a color and it kind of creates like a theme around it. But basically it has all these like different theme options, like monochromatic, complementary, like there's different things on there. The triad and the square one are nice because they'll show you like different directions and it'll start building like brighter colors. And then if you choose the custom one, you can start dragging things around and you kind of find your own match, but it's just in a nice, comfortable way to do it. And using Adobe Color kind of brings up another point I wanted to make in creating your own color palettes. You can actually do an extract theme one from a photo, and I think that's such a great way to make a color palette. Like using a photo and just bringing out those colors. This site will do it for you. It's cool. Like it'll just show like different color matches when you bring in a photo itself, and it'll bring out like kind of like the small details that you didn't really notice. But if you want to do it yourself too, you can just bring a photo into any design program and start eyedropping that color, like those different colors on there, and just see what comes out and see what goes like for your design. And I think it's so cool to find those inspirations, like especially like I say, I always find my inspiration on Pinterest. Like even if you're not looking at actual design work on Pinterest, or like cool photos, like some picture of Italy or like some sunset picture, just what kind of colors can you get out of those like awesome photos that you find online. So I feel like that's a great way to start building color palettes and just figuring out what matches and what clashes. Like I always say, Pinterest is like the place I go for inspiration. It's also where I figured out a little bit more about like color palettes and such when I see what people are making on there, and especially when I look at design work, I'm like, okay, I can kind of pull from these different themes and see where their color inspiration is coming from. There's a lot going on out there. There's a lot of like neon right now, a lot of oranges, a lot of greens. There's so many cool colors going on right now, like trending. So I just feel like if you can build off of that, you can get really, really on the nose with what's going on in design right now. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was kind of like helpful for you. You guys let me talk, and hopefully you learn something when I do talk. I will see you in my next video. I'm gonna be designing a new brand, so it'll be fun. And yeah, subscribe, like this video if it helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye. Cute, short, sweet, that's how we do it at this channel. Hopefully you'll learn some design along the way. Okay, see ya.